Hi, everyone. My name is Melanie Halter. I'm the founder of Joy Health and Wellness, and just welcome to today's webinar on what is intuitive eating. So, just a little bit more about myself. I am a functional nutrition and lifestyle counselor practitioner. I am a master health coach from the IWP. I have a certification in the International Coaching Federation, a member of the American Association of Drugless Practitioners. But truly, I think it was Julia Roberts in Notting Hill, like, I'm just a woman standing in front of a scale, standing in front of food, wanting it to love me. Right. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, but my relationship with food, that's complicated. And I'm really working on body awareness and trusting my body. And even with all of that training and all of that background knowledge, I am still definitely a work in process. And I wanted to share with you about intuitive eating because it's something new that I'm being trained in. I'm currently going through the intuitive eating certification process. And I want to tell everybody who also has a complicated relationship with food, anybody who is working on their body awareness, their self worth, their self love, that they're not alone and that there can be another way. And so let's dig into what is intuitive eating. So, the training that I'm going through is from this book from Evelyn and Elise. They've been around for a long time. This is actually their fourth edition. And their whole belief is that you make peace with food, you free yourself from chronic dieting forever, and you rediscover that pleasure of eating. And so we're going to dig into what that looks like and see if this is a good fit for you or something that you want to talk about more. So what's intuitive eating all about? It basically breaks it down into these three principles. You have unconditional permission to eat when you're hungry and whatever food is desired. This isn't anything about restriction. This isn't about deprivation. This isn't about counting calories. This is not about food pyramid. This isn't about elimination diet. This is tuning in to giving yourself permission to eat when you're hungry and whatever food that you want to eat. It's also tuning in to eating for your physical needs rather than your emotional reasons. So if you are eating for every emotion, which I definitely have struggled with, eating when you're bored or you're stressed, eating when you're sad, all of those things, this is tuning into more of your hunger cues, your satisfaction levels, rather than your emotions. And you're really having that reliance on that internal hunger to tell you when you are satisfied. And there's no real portion control. It's that internal listening that's going to guide you. And so let's look at that a little bit more. So it's measured using an intuitive eating scale. And people that scored higher on this scale had what they called greater interoceptive awareness. So, in other words, they were able to listen to their body, honor what their body was telling them, and follow through with what their body was telling them in order to get their needs met. Okay. So, on the eating scale, there's four different ways that you can look at eating. Intrinsic eating is eating based on those inner cues. It's eating because your body's telling you that it's hungry. It's eating based on listening to your body. Extrinsic eating is based on that external influence, like we talked about earlier, on your mood. Are you eating for all those emotions? Are you eating because socially there's like a social pressure? Like everybody else is ordering a hamburger. I don't want to order a salad because they might ask me about it. Everybody else is drinking, so I should be drinking too. And also looking at that food availability. Are you eating just because it's there, or are you being mindful about the foods that are open to you? Then there's also people that eat that anti-dieting, where you are eating because it's a part of a certain diet, whether it's paleo, keto, Mediterranean, whatever it is. or you're eating in order to fulfill a calorie range, or you're eating strictly to lose weight where it's more restricted. Also, there's looking at that eating for self-care. Are you eating your body or giving your food what it needs, regardless of what your body looks like, how much you weigh, what your size is? You have to eat. It's one of those foundational needs, right? And so when we work together, we will use this intuitive eating scale to see where your eating habits currently fall. Are you listening to those inner cues? Are you listening more on those external cues? Do you have some of that diet mentality that we might need to unpack a little bit? And are you really taking care of yourself? And so the principles that this program is built on, there's 10 of them. And they either honor that self-awareness where you're tuning in, and then it helps remove some of those things that prevent us from tuning into our body. And so we'll learn how to truly honor your hunger, respect your fullness, discover what it's like to feel satisfied, and look at movement where you are using exercise and movement as enjoyment and not using it as a source of punishment or not using it as an excuse or reason to eat more. In order to follow this kind of, or embrace, I should say, this eating style, you truly need to reject that diet mentality. There's not going to be counting of points or calories or anything of that. And that can really take some unlearning. You're going to learn to make peace with food. There's no good food, bad food. It's all just food. You're going to challenge that food police. And so identifying what thoughts or concepts or people are maybe making comments about what you're eating, whether it's portions or whether it's food, looking at ways to remove some of the judgment that comes around our eating choices. Coping with your emotions with kindness. And we'll go through an emotional toolbox where you'll have all kinds of different tools at your disposal. So when you have the feelings come up, you'll be able to handle them with kindness and self-compassion and not with food. You'll learn more how to respect your body and being thankful for all the things that it can do and not feel like it needs to be restricted or deprived or even punished with food choices. And then finally, honor your health with gentle nutrition. You're still going to need to meal plan. You're still going to need to meal prep. You're just going to learn how to look at those things differently. Okay. All right. So again, just as a gentle reminder, this isn't a weight loss deal. The purpose is not to lose weight. The purpose of intuitive eating is to cultivate a healthy relationship with your food, your mind, and your body. So if you are joining this webinar, or if you want to learn more about intuitive eating to lose weight, this really isn't the program for you. This is a weight neutral model that means that your focus is not on your body size, but rather on healing your relationship with food. So before you quit watching yet, let me go over some of the better benefits, some of the amazing benefits that intuitive eating has that's not specifically weight focused. Okay. So intuitive eaters have less of a disordered eating pattern. And so if you have been diagnosed with an eating disorder, learning intuitive eating really helps you on your journey of healing that relationship with food. Intuitive eaters have lower triglycerides. Intuitive eaters have lower emotional eating. And they also have lower of that self-silencing. So that's where you are really suppressing your thoughts, feelings, and needs. You're keeping all of those things bottled up and going to food as a way to cope. Intuitive eaters have higher self-esteem. They have higher well-being and optimism. They eat a variety of foods, and they have higher of that HDL, which is that good cholesterol. Intuitive eaters have a lower loss of control while eating. And so if you have to eat it till it's gone, that type of thinking, eating intuitively will really help with that. Intuitive eating will help with binge eating. It will help with those thoughts of having any kind of weight bias, of maybe having judgment or shame or guilt of not being a certain size or a certain weight or looking a certain way, letting go of that number on the scale to determine your self-worth. Intuitive eaters have lower blood pressure and they have a lower rating of body dissatisfaction. In fact, they have a higher rating of body appreciation and acceptance. They have a higher introspective awareness. And we talked about that a little bit earlier. So they have a higher ability to tune in and listen to what their body is telling them. They get more pleasure from eating. They have more proactive coping strategies. They have a psychological hardiness. We can't get away from stress, right? Stress is going to happen. But intuitive eaters have a higher coping rate and they have a higher mindset, that psychological hardiness, to help them deal with those stressful situations. They have unconditional self-regard. They know that they are wonderful, worthy, beautiful people, regardless of how they look or what their body image might be. And they have a higher life satisfaction. They're happier. So if you are wanting to know more about intuitive eating, I would highly encourage you to join the Joy Health and Wellness Facebook group. It's a completely free group. For the rest of the month of July, I will be talking a lot about each of those 10 principles, giving tips and strategies on how to move through those principles. And if that interests you at all, feel free to join us. I'd love to see you in there. Another option would be to join a group coaching program that I am starting. I think it will release on this Friday. It will actually begin on July 17th. And it is all about ditching that diet mentality, ditch the diet, and reclaim your relationship with food. This includes a wellness assessment. There's 8 sessions that we will walk through together that will go through all of the different things that I've mentioned. And I am only opening it up to 8 people, with the wellness assessment being included in that, which is a one-on-one with me. I really wanted to keep it smaller and more intimate. So when it opens on Friday, go ahead and jump in on it. We'll get your wellness assessment started. We'll get a relationship built in. And then when it kicks off on July 17th, you'll be all set to go. If the group isn't for you and you want to talk with me further, schedule a wellness assessment. This is where we go into that deep health timeline and we make connections between your health and then the life stress events that have happened. And then through that process, we also look at how your health is currently through a matrix. We'll look at your structural health, your immune health, your hormone health, your gastrointestinal health, and then through that make some supplement recommendations on how to move forward. If you do decide to move forward with the group coaching program, here are some other tools that are included in the program. We will go over the beginning of the session. We do a lot of clarity and goal setting. We get really clear about what you want your relationship with food to look like. What does that feel like for you? And when the program is done, what will determine whether it was a success for you? And we'll go over that together so that as we move forward, we can keep relating back to those goals. We'll also be doing a food, mood, gut health journal. So this will involve looking at what you're currently eating. We're not going to make any changes into it. We're going to see what you're doing first and then talk about how to move forward. We're going to look at your emotions, your mood when you're eating, before you're eating, after you're eating, and start looking at patterns and making connections. We're also going to dig into your gut health with that. What you are putting into your body is going to affect how you're feeling, but we also want to know what your body is doing with that nutrition, doing that with your food. And so we'll be looking at that gut health relationship in there as well. As we dive in more in to the mood aspect of things, you'll be using an emotional awareness toolbox. And we're going to talk about the 8 different areas of emotional eating. And then you'll have 3 coping strategies for each of those areas. And so the main areas that we're going to look at for emotional eating is your stress, your emotions, your habits, your culture, your body image, your unconscious thoughts, your regulation, which is kind of like your self-discipline. And then we're going to come up and then we'll look at some of those learned behaviors. Okay. So for all of those areas, you'll have 3 coping strategies that you can choose from. So you can identify, am I eating right now because it's just a habit? What's a coping strategy that I can use to shift this pattern? After each session, you'll go through an unlearning action plan. And so sometimes I feel the hardest part of any health story is you're going to have to unlearn some things. And so, especially if you have grown up with a diet mentality, if you've felt like you've been on a diet your whole entire life, it's going to take some courage and compassion to unlearn some things. And so we'll do that together as a group. We'll unlearn some things, we'll learn some new things. And I'm hoping that it feels better to you, that it feels like a better fit. So you'll have an unlearning action plan, thoughts that aren't serving you well, new thoughts that you're going to focus on. You'll also have emotional eating affirmations to kind of help in those moments when things feel hard, because unlearning isn't easy, right? You'll have some journal prompts that if that is a good outlet for you, and if you're going to use that as a coping strategy, there's some prompts there to get you thinking. I'll also be sharing my favorite apps for meal planning, my favorite apps for meditation. There'll be a little bit of technology and paper weaved in throughout the program. Other things that are included is a things that bring me joy list. We'll be talking about that a lot because tuning in with your feelings is a big part of intuitive eating. We'll be learning how to do body scans and deep breathing techniques, along with rediscovering movement that's going to work for your lifestyle, a movement that you love, and different ways to really tune into your body so that you can start listening to it better. We're going to really dig into stress management and reframe what that looks like. One of the biggest things I hear about meal planning and meal prep is I don't have the time. It's too stressful. So we're going to look at how you're really spending your time by doing a time audit. You'll also be doing a body check-in, a full body check-in. We'll be looking at a what are you feeling wheel to identify those feelings that you're having so you can process them and work through them. You'll learn how to increase your energy by 1 degree. That's a very fun module. We'll talk about a brain dump. I always relate, especially a woman's brain, to a computer browser. And we'll talk about how you can close some of those tabs that might be running in the background. We'll go through a finding your purpose worksheet and also look at some core values. So you'll be really digging into listening to your body, your mind, and your soul. Again, if that's something that is of interest to you, let me know. Sessions begin on July 17th. Again, there's only 8 openings for that, so make sure if that's of interest to you and you really want in, secure your spot. If you just want to learn more, you want to know what this is all about, please join that Facebook group. And if you want that one-on-one wellness assessment, I'll include that link below. Thanks again for joining me. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll talk soon.